You can pose a question to us. You can raise your comments. You can let us know what your thoughts are. And this is a time when we leave it open to you, the listeners, to just be interactive with us, right? Whether it's something that we would have spoken on the morning, this morning, or something that you wish to raise brand new. All right. So I'm doing a mental 10-second countdown to see if anybody calls. And if not, we're going to go right into our topic. All right. All right, 10 seconds up. So we are posing a question now. Chris and I are just going to just give our thoughts with relation to Hurricane Beryl and its spill-off social challenges, right? And this actually came up as a result of an article that was published on Eyewitness News. The headline states, government mulls bringing Southern Grenadine students to St. Vincent for school. All right, so I'm not going to read everything in its entirety, but just to give you a gist of what is happening within that article. So it says the government is considering bringing children from Mairo and Union Island to St. Vincent for schooling from September, while their campuses in the storm-battered islands are repaired, right? So the PM says, my current thoughts about this school is that we are not going to have back electricity and have things where the children will be able to go to school in Union by September. So I'll have to renovate a couple buildings or build timber buildings for the secondary school and primary school. All right. There was something else that he mentioned, and I'm skimming through. He said that if the children are brought to St. Vincent, the government has to provide accommodation in guest houses for those who do not have relatives or people who can responsibly oversee them. We will have to bring the teachers, many of whom are from down there, he said, adding that the educators who are from St. Vincent would have their own accommodation already. The PM further said, and if you bring the children, you will have to bring at least one parent to stay with them. Of course, the ferry goes up and down, so other parents can come and visit from time to time. Continues, everybody has to make his or own contribution or sacrifice. And of course, it will be more than one child in a family in several cases. One or more might be in secondary and also primary. It is a costly exercise, but I can't have children without instruction. All right. So that really is the gist of the article. But there was something that dawned on me as I read it, in that, so these students, apart from having to go through the challenges or the aftermath of, well, first the I guess trauma in a sense, or of witnessing the hurricane's passage, they now have to deal with the recovery efforts and the rebuilding efforts. And now in some cases, there is going to be a relocation happening. And one of these spill-off effects of, so even with this article, it's made mention of bringing the students to mainland. Now, in some cases, these students, well, it has been happening in the past, right? Let's not make it seem as if that children from the Grenadines have not been schooled on mainland before. But the circumstances in this situation is different because there is a push factor that would have immediately caused for many of them now to have to be relocated. And, you know, I'm just thinking about the fact that there may just be that sort of breakdown within the family, in the sense of you're going to have children who may be on mainland, let's say with family friends or with family members, to get their schooling, right? So they're going to be separated from their parents. The other thing what the PM spoke about in terms of bringing at least a parent to the mainland, I also thought about these parents need to find jobs, because it's one thing for you to bring them, you're finding accommodation for them, but now, in a sense, they now would have to find jobs to be able to occupy their time, right? Because you can't just come here, and I don't think anybody would just want to come and just not do anything, right? So now we also have to consider finding employment for these persons. Another thing that we have to factor in as well is, when I remember, or when I heard persons speak about disasters before, well, in the case of the Soufriere eruption, persons who, let's say, were in North Windward and North Leeward, they relocated to several communities. I remember Camden Park being one of these communities. And then my thought now is, how many of these persons who are moving from the Southern Grenadines may necessarily wish to go back?
May necessarily wish or may not?
Or may not. All right, may not go back.
I mean, I think it's okay for them to not want to go back
Mm-hmm.
because one, some people don't want to go back to that space of trauma and be reminded.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might end up suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress. Well, let me just say PTS, post-traumatic stress. Some people, the period where they experience that might be short, some people long. So it's always best to go and get help because, like, you know, we have to also appreciate and understand that the fact that it's Simmons and Grenadines really and truly could occupy anywhere.
Correct.
But it must be a very difficult time because the Grenadines, and I was looking at it from a standpoint of tourism, right? Tourism season is November, cruise tourism, that is, from November to April. So this would have been like a kind of a lull, even though you would have people visiting all year round. The peak is during the cruise tourism season. So they might have been preparing for that income that's supposed to come. I'm thinking, what are they going to do when November comes? Are they going to be back up and running in terms of infrastructure? How many folks will have their businesses restored by that time so to be able to accommodate? And would the ships want to, or vessels want to go, considering the island was damaged significantly, especially in the case of Myro, where Salt Whistle Bay is like world renowned, like very, very popular. Or maybe that might attract more people because they want to see what the islands look like now. I don't know, that's a very tough reality that people have to face. In terms of schooling, that's going to be extremely expensive because you have to rebuild the structures, right? The schools. In the meantime, the students have to go to school. You can't just leave them out like that. So the PM is very correct. Then you have to look at the amount of resources that you have.
You mean as a parent?
No, as a government, right? You have to look at what is priority? Getting a school rebuilt now or getting the right infrastructure in place in time? So I think it's easier for them to build a temporary structure, but then is that sustainable if something else happens between now? Because multiple scientists have predicted that this is going to be a very, very busy season that's with intense hurricanes, as we've seen with Hurricane Beryl.
Yeah, but you see, even if they build a temporary structure, are there proper accommodations for these students? Because the other thing too is that, remember, learning doesn't just take place in a vacuum, right? You have to also be, as a child, for things to be, I guess, absorbed within you, you kind of need to be okay as well, right? If you're still trying to battle with, let's say your parent has moved to mainland to maybe to find work because there's no work there within the Grenadines, what is going to happen to the child who has remained on the island, right? So I'm really and truly looking at more of these social issues or some of the social implications that are going to happen as a spill-off. Now, I know the thing of it is that, yes, generally within our lives, we are going to go through different things, and it's just for us to find a way to adapt or to cope and to change or to adjust, really, right? But I'm really wondering in terms of on the ground, which is why the question was posed to Ms. Badnock from the Red Cross in terms of what is there on the ground to provide that psychosocial support for persons who chose to remain on the island. Because it's one thing for you to say that I am going to move to the mainland, but you're starting brand new. You may be starting in a place where you're not necessarily familiar with a lot of persons. I always remember that as much as it is St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I always remember that when I worked in Canouan, I actually felt so far removed from mainland. It was one of the weirdest things and I could have understood where persons in the Grenadines sort of feel, in a way, separate from mainland, because that was even though I was from mainland, I was from St. Vincent itself. When I got to working in Canouan, the activities that were happening on mainland didn't really matter to me because it was just my immediate environment, you know. So I could understand that person's moving from the Grenadines, whether it's Union, whether it's Mairo, whether it's Canawan, moving to mainland, it's going to be an adjustment for them. And particularly for children, you know, it's one thing for you to be in a home with your mother and your father or whoever it is that you're comfortable with, now to have to go and stay with somebody. And on top of that, you know, yes, we want to believe in the goodness of our people and, you know, that the persons won't take advantage of the situation, but not everybody is going to have everybody's best interest at heart, you know. And I suppose even if somebody is sending their child to mainland, you have to have these conversations, the tough conversations that you probably would not have necessarily felt the need to have had before, but you have to have the conversations with them in terms of if somebody's passing their place with you, if somebody's molesting you, if somebody's emotionally abusing you, if somebody's physically abusing you, because it's one thing to send your child to mainland for education, but if you are not there with them within the home, then what happens to them, you know?
Especially depending on the age and gender. Sorry, especially depending on the age and gender of that child. Now, I think they're going to have to do a lot of assessments because there might be like some folks who are still able to carry on in the Grenadines, and it would be easier for them to just have the children educated there. In terms of numbers, I don't know because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But hopefully, in the end, you know, we can all cooperate and look at the bigger picture, which is like educating our children, because for them to be able to not be able to, for them to be set back because we couldn't find a solution. When I say we, I mean everybody involved, right? Every stakeholder, we couldn't come up with a solution to the issue, and there's always a solution, would be even more heartbreaking than just going through Beryl, losing everything, but not being able to advance. It will set you back because this day and age, you need everything that you can get. All right. So hopefully everything works out in the best interest of the children who are disadvantaged at this time.
And one of the other things I noticed, well, I could just call it because it's on social media, high school, they waive the costs for registration for students from the Southern Grenadines, right? And it's an initiative that they can be applauded for. I don't know what other schools, in terms of what the other schools are doing in terms of to be of assistance to those students who would be registering, right? But again, trying to feel or put myself in the position of a child who has to be in a new environment, brand new, you know, even within the school settings, I am hoping that, well, many schools have counselors already, right? But in terms of these children in particular, that a little bit more assistance, or a little bit more care, or a little bit more attention would be paid towards them just to ensure that they are adjusting properly, you know. And as I made mention of the other points with the parents who have to relocate, you know, sometimes many persons say that it's already difficult to find jobs here in SVG, and having to have a new influx of persons. It may not necessarily be a significant number, but you're going to have added persons looking for work as well, you know. So again, we can't just look at what has happened as the issue or the challenges being faced within the Southern Grenadines. It now really and truly has to be looked at from a national standpoint, because in one way or the other, all of us are going to have to play our part, right? In whatever capacity, have to play our part to be able to assist from the human standpoint, the recovery process for our people.
In addition to that, a bit of empathy. I think part of the recovery in terms of schools is also preparing other students who were not affected for how to deal with persons who have experienced trauma. Because sometimes children could be very mean. Could be very mean.
Truth be told, yes.
So I mean, in any given setting with children, you'll have like a little bully here and there and what's not. But if we could put a little extra in terms of preparing them mentally to be kind, extra kind, that would be greatly appreciated. Parents as well. Of children who are not affected also have a part to play. You could like, go the extra mile. Something else with that too. Somebody out of the goodness of their heart might be able to accommodate for somebody or family or whatever for, let's say, a month because you understand what happened, but they may not be comfortable after a while. That comfort might run out. It's not that they're mean people,
It just,
but
yes,
after a while it's like, okay, I'm tired now.
Need back my space and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So living with and seeing two totally different things. But I hope the situations, whatever it is, that work out in the best interest of everybody involved.
Yeah.
Trying times, but you know how it is.
And legit, we're all in it together, So yeah.
Did you realize that Hurricane Beryl was a beast?
I think it still is, although I think it's a tropical storm, I believe. But yeah,
Horrible,
he is touching down everywhere.
Off the top of my head, the countries: Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Jamaica, Mexico, the United States of America. A beast.
Yeah.
And to think that it happened so early, history. And they're telling us to expect more storms like this. Excuse me? So listen, y'all, don't take these things lightly, Don't take these things lightly. When you are rebuilding as much as you possibly can, don't use them nails, screws. Go to the people who know how to do these things, because I don't know it. You could know where to go and get things done properly. Like certain little tools you could use to make sure that your house at least stays intact. Yeah. Don't take these things lightly at all.
And one of the things in the news reports is from coming out of Grenada is that I'm paraphrasing now because I can't remember it directly. But the prime minister was stating that the houses that are going to be rebuilt, they need to be built stronger because many of them actually were not able to withstand a hurricane, right? And I think that is also one of the things that, yes, it is that you would have built a structure, you have a structure, you're thinking about building a structure, but no, we can't just build based on what was done in the past. You have to build in mind with regards to climate change. And part of climate change also involves the fact that we are going to have increased hurricane seasons, So, I mean, yes, you could only prepare so much. Mother Nature is going to do what it wants to do in the end, regardless. But if we can help to mitigate certain things, then that's what we need to do. It is going to be costly, but I suppose in the long run, what do we prefer? To have to start from scratch again, or let's just try to put proper measures in place in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take time. So the three pigs.
The what?
The story of the three pigs. The three little
The one
pigs.
who built Christal. I have not yet. So
like all
I just did the straw, the bricks. What's the other one?
I'm sorry. Maybe a little out of time into it, but my mind went to that like a few times since the 1st of July, right? But you look at these structures, some of them are concrete and what's not. But the stronger it is, the more hurricane resilient it is. I know like category 4 and 5, it's like hell yeah, but still the stronger it is, the better your chances. It just means spend a little extra money.
Extra.
However, in the long term, it's your safety. Some people don't believe in concrete roofs because it's hot.
Yeah.
It's very hot. Oh, I'm pretty sure there's a way to mitigate that. Put some plants on the roof or something. I don't know. Ask the engineers.
And this is exactly where the whole concept of us talking about architecture has to come into play, because another thing as well too is ventilation within homes, etc. So homes need to be built, our structures need to be built in a way that they can you wouldn't necessarily fully resist the hurricane, but at least be a little bit more resilient towards it, So it's just for us to do what it is that we need to do. We can't just go based on tradition anymore.
No.
All right, so we are going to take a break. That's just Christal and I giving our thoughts with regards to the social, and we spoke a little bit of the economic impact with regards to the spin-off effects of the passage of Hurricane Beryl. At this time, we are going to jump right into today's Community Dateline.